Well, our theme for June, in the first week, Patrick talked about the Father within. And then last week, I talked about Jesus' Father. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the human approach of the male energy and fatherhood in our world. And so, we're just going to flow. Everybody breathe. Fathers are important. They're important. They carry a very unique energy and a very unique vibration. I know in metaphysics we talk about the inner masculine and the inner female, and we have both. We have our intuition, which is the feminine, and we have our action, which is the masculine, and we're both aspects within so that we can create and go out into the world. But in the physical reality, males and females are actually created differently. There's different muscle masses and different abilities for strength and different functions that they do in relationship to the outer world. And so there is that unique space that the male energy holds as creator, as sustainer, and as father that is different than mother. And when you get a mother and father talking to one another about the child, sometimes they can't even understand what the other one's saying. They approach things so differently. But both so valuable and so important. With the fathers, they are our teachers. A mother's language normally is love-based, it's intuitive-based, it's a gentle-based. The father's language may not be that. It may be slightly different. It may be more, I got to prepare you for the world, I'm going to help protect you. It may be more, are you thinking clearly? To help you navigate the outer world. Their language may come from that posturing. It doesn't mean that they don't come from love as well, but the general approach. So, Spirit said this, moms will help you shift your directions, your intuition, and your guidance so that you can choose a new road. Dads will help you pack. They'll get the map out and they'll show you how to do it. Okay, so that just gives us an idea of the action energy that we're going to be talking about today. So everyone here has received lessons from your fathers. If your father was a biological father that raised you, or if there was another man that stepped in and parented you, we all had some father that guided us and taught us and helped us learn how to navigate matter. And we learn through the active instructions, and we also learn through the absent assumptions. Like if your father was one that traveled a lot or was not readily available for you, there's assumptions that you make based on his absence that teach you. Do you see? We're always learning in relationship to that father. All right. We've learned how to navigate truly from our fathers. As I was working on this Sunday service, trying to really get an understanding of what I wanted to share and what Spirit wanted me to share, I sat down with my dad and I wrote a list of the things that I learned from him that I feel compatible and united with, and the things that I learned from him that I was against in his world. You know what I'm saying? And the list was relatively equal. They weren't the same, but it was equal. Some of the things I learned from him that were positive was to follow my own path, be honest, pay attention, always map out your exit, be tenacious, work is important, and pay your bills. That was my dad. Pay attention. My dad never said you have to be right. He just said, are you paying attention? He never said anything about grades. He never had to, really, but he never did. Are you paying attention? Are you making right choices? He also taught me anger destroys. He taught me intolerance will make you sick. And he taught me don't do what people tell you to do. And he taught me this from the other side of this street, the other side of his behavior. So I learned a lot from my dad. All of these things become positive within me. All of them become choices that I'm now making to navigate matter. So I learned these things not because he taught me. I learned them because of who he was. Can you hear that? I learned these things because of who my father was. And who my father was is the same person your dad was. child of God. My dad didn't know it. I hope yours did. My father had no idea he was child of God. My father lived in a religion that he rejected. My father lived in a religion that his mother forced down his throat. And in that religion, there was an Old Testament belief that if you loved God, you had to give up all love for God. There was this belief that there's a scripture in the Old Testament where a warrior's coming home from battle, and he says to God, if you let me win before the battle, if you let me win, I'll sacrifice, because that's what they did, the sacrifice. I'll sacrifice the first thing that comes to greet me when I'm coming home. And of course, he got to win, and they lived in a world of sacrifice because they believed God was away. They had to sacrifice to God to connect. And who came to greet him? His daughter. His only daughter, his sweet virgin daughter, came to greet him. She hadn't been married yet, dancing and doing songs and celebrating. And he had her sacrificed because he made that promise to God. And that idea of God being so far away that we have to give up our love for God is still maintained in the New Testament when people say, if you love family more than me, more than God, you're not worthy of God. And people have taken those ideas and married them like, if we love, we have to deny our love of humanity if we love God. And that was the religion my father was fed. And he said, no, I cannot do that. I cannot do that. He hadn't found us yet. He hadn't found the religion that said, love is God. Love is God. You see? So my dad couldn't give me that. But he gave me so many other things. And he never knew he was child of God until he crossed. And then he knew. And then he knew. And he could grow and learn and become greater than he was. So our children of God that we chose to come through, these children of God that we chose as our fathers, we chose them for a reason. They were going to give us gifts that we needed. They were going to guide us through the world and teach us how to navigate in a way that we could use. And so I wanted to share with you a couple of stories of the children of God that Jesus deals with, the fathers. And as I share these stories with you, I want you to hear one thing. This was your dad. These stories are exactly what your dad would have done. And my dad would have done this. My dad would have done this. Your dad would have done this. I don't care what you think about your dad. Listen to the story. He would have done it. All right. In our first story, we have a young man who is epileptic. This is in chapter 130. And he brings the child, the epileptic child, to the disciples. I don't know how old the child is, but he's probably a teenager. He brings him to the disciples because Jesus is gone. And he asked the disciples to heal his son. And the disciples couldn't. They said, oh gosh, sorry, can't do it. And the dad said, where's Jesus? I'll wait. So the dad waits with his son, and Jesus comes with his disciples, and the father knelt down before Jesus and said, my master, I beseech that you would look in pity on my son, my only child. He is epileptic and suffers grievously. Sometimes he falls into the fire and is burned. Sometimes he falls into the waters and is like to drown. And many times a day he falls, grinding his teeth, and foam pours out of his mouth. I took my child to your disciples, and they failed to give relief. And then they brought the child forward, and instantly he fell on the ground, he foamed, and he writhed. And Jesus said to the dad, how long has this been his trouble? And the father said, from infancy. We have sought in many lands for help, but found it not. So he'd already taken his son many places to be healed. And the dad said, but I believe that you can speak the word and heal my son. And Jesus said, faith is the power of God, and all things are possible for him who in his heart believes. And the dad said, the father cried in tears and said, Lord, I believe, help thou my unbelief. I'm giving it all the faith I've got. I've taken this child everywhere. I've waited for you. I will not give up on this child. This is the faith of a father. In times of stress, in times when the child is hurting, the faith of the father will not give up on the child. and we'll continue to look and try and look and try. Jesus spoke the word, and the child was healed. And the people were amazed and said, "Surely this is a man of God." Can you all feel that faith? Can you see your dad doing that? Never giving up on you? The next story is about another father who has a daughter. And Jesus is walking through the crowds teaching, and this man named Jairus came forward. And he bowed. They're all bowing before the Christ. The male action dominant bows before the Christ. He is taking his power and acknowledging that Christ has the greater power. Jairus bowed. "My master, hear my prayer. My child is very sick, and I fear that she will die. But this I know, if you come and speak the word, she will live." There was a bit of an interruption. Jesus got waylaid by somebody else, but Jairus stayed. And then, as he was speaking to this woman and healing her, he turned back to Jairus, and a servant from the home of Jairus came and said, "My master, trouble the Lord not. Your child is dead." And Jesus said, "Jairus, man of faith, do not permit your faith to waver in this trying hour." So he looked at the dad and he said, "No, you've stood while I healed somebody else. You're having faith. You've waited for me. Don't give up your faith now." And so they went to Jairus' house, and Jesus went upstairs with the mother, and the little child was healed. The faith of the Father. This is when action can so focus that faith is free. You know, Jesus brought this beautiful energy into our world. The idea of God the Father so far away that you had to sacrifice. And this is all religions at that time. It wasn't just the Jewish faith. Many religions did sacrifices because they felt God was so far away. Then there were certain religions that were matriarchal, that worshipped a goddess energy, but they would say, God is all around you. God is in nature. God is everywhere present. Do you see the dichotomy of it all? And Jesus comes and marries the two and says, hey, God is here. God is in us. We are children of God. He brings the two aspects into this oneness. We are children of God. The power is in here. And yes, God is all around us. And the power is in your heart. This is the faith that was born into the new generation of male and female. This is the faith that comes through all of us, male and female, into this world. The faith where the male action can speak to God clearly, use their intuition, talk to God, follow that guidance. A man who talks to God and follows guidance is a man of power. Do you all realize that? A man who prays and talks to God and just listens and follows the gentle guidance is a man of power. Our world is becoming that. So we have a man of power who then becomes a father of power. It's very interesting what Spirit was sharing with me about the father energy. They said young men get these great ideas, and young men can go out and create the rebellions, and they can go out and create the new statements, and they can go out and create ideas. But if the fathers are not on board, it is not sustainable. Because a father will look at a new idea and he'll also assess, how will this affect my family? How does this affect my children? How will this affect my grandchildren? A father's thought goes to all of it. And if you can get the fathers on board with an idea, you can change the world. The female, we automatically try the new ideas. We try the love. We try the peace. But if you get the action of a father on board, the world will change. And this is such a beautiful thought for the world that we are going to be going into, this beautiful world of creating a new space, a new heaven on earth, a new peace. All of us have had interesting relationships with physical fathers in this world, most of them challenging at points, non-challenging at points, but there's normally a love that moves through it all. We chose that particular man to teach us what we needed to learn. That man is living out his lifetime, what he needed to learn. And it's a beautiful harmony and a beautiful peace. For me, understanding the new world that's being created, it is such a great breath of air to see men stepping forward that don't have to fight an old religion like my dad did. He was born in the 20s. He had to fight an old religion, you know? And these young people that are being born, and you all out here, where you're taking this beautiful energy of the balance of God in you and creating a faith that works for you. Such a beautiful new world is being created in our reality. And we can always heal everything. We can heal the past relationships. We can heal the future steps that we're going to take. And I've shared with you before, my father and I have healed so much since he's been on the other side. He's healed so much. He was a security man. He was protecting people. He was always looking for the threats. I'm like, I love people. Everybody's good. No, everybody's not good. Yes, they are good. We had this basic difference of approach. And I shared with you the cathartic moment when I was a little girl in Las Vegas. My father was in charge of security at the test site, at the Mercury test site. 3 years, elementary school. And then in 2017, when the atrocity occurred in Las Vegas, where all the people were shot, I was sitting on my couch in my living room, and I was crying. And my dad came and sat right down beside me from the other side. And I just cried, and I said, "You were right. I was wrong. It is your world. It's not my world." And he goes, "I like your world better. I like your world better." And the other day, I don't know, sometimes do you all ever have energies coming through your home at night, and they're disruptive, and it's like, where are you guys coming from? And there are ghosts everywhere. It's like, please, can I just get some sleep? So I was laying down.
Most really happy to see you.
You'll feel it, you notice it. So I was laying down trying to get some sleep, and I just said, "God, you know, I live in your light, I live in your world, I live in your kingdom. Please just clear the energy so I can sleep." And I shut my eyes and I started to go to sleep. And I woke up in the middle of the night to go to the restroom. My dad was there. My dad's energy was filling the room. And I was like, thanks for coming. I mean, he was always about protection, wasn't he? He was always about security, and this happened a week ago. He came when I needed help. The beautiful love of a father, the beautiful love of a father for child, for guidance, and in faith. You cannot measure that. It's deep, it's long, and it's forever. Even if you have not seen a father for a long period of time, you can connect with them, reach out, and connect with that faith and that love. In our world, our grandchildren, they're going to be so blessed. They're going to be so blessed that their parents, and then as the generations go on, this balanced energy, they're going to be so blessed to know their father is child of God, and their father knows he's child of God. How amazing is that going to be? I, child of God, am bringing forth a child of God, and I'm going to teach my child of God that I am child of God. What a beautiful circle of life we're creating. And we need the daddies to lead. We need the daddies to lead on this one. Guys, got it? Ladies, do you have it? All right, let's go within. Let's just breathe. Father, Mother God, I ask that your light and your love just engulf all of us in this room. And I ask that a calm of love come over each one. And I want you to feel that beautiful spark of your heart, your divinity, your love. And in your heart, just say, I am child of God. want you to lift up now into a beautiful space, a beautiful cloud of light. Just lift up into it. And we're going to call forth your dad, your earthly dad, or the dad that raised you. Whoever is your dad, or bring them all. We've got a bunch of them. But I want you to look at that father and say, I acknowledge you are God's child. You are a child of God. And I thank you for bringing me into this world so that I could demonstrate who I am. And just let the love flow from your heart to his. I ask now that any unforgiveness between us be melted. And just see a beautiful pink light coming over you and your dad, your father. And I want you to look in the eyes of this father and see him as brother. You are my brother. And I thank you for the part you played in my journey. Feel his love returning to you. And feel this great freedom. We're going to lift him up, let him go, free him to be his greatest self. And just stand in that beautiful cloud of light. I am child of God. And feel the love of Father, Mother, God filling you. Show me, God, the way of my next step on this planet. Show me. And then I ask that you walk with me. And take a breath, breathe in the light. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes. Well, I left you in the cloud. How do you feel? You can stay there or come back anytime. Well, I hope you have a fabulous Father's Day today. I hope you take the beautiful energy of the divine light with you. Our Father, Mother, God is with us every moment of every day and every thought and every breath. Our human father's pattern is with us. And we are blessed in this journey. So everybody take a breath and say, yay, God.
Yay, God.